we are, we want to immediately jump to the highest level of theological abstraction and say, well, this is a earthly story with a heavenly meaning. In this case, the heavenly meaning is this is a re-narration of the entire history of Israel that is rejecting, and God is the absentee landowner, and God is sending prophets, and they're being rejected, and then God's Son is rejected, and God is going to destroy Israel. There's a certain theological self-interest in there, and also a certain Christian, i.e. anti-Jewish self-interest in that interpretation. And this, of course, is the traditional interpretation of this passage. But what does the story actually say? One of the disciplines of Bible reading is to slow down and look at what it says before we jump to what it means. So it is obviously a parable, but just because it's a parable doesn't mean that it's some kind of hidden magic trick. It simply means that it's an attempt to describe concretely this reality called the kingdom of God. Now, perhaps we need to slow down a bit and ask ourselves, what is parable? Where does parable come from, this style of speech? Anybody know? Where does it come from? Oh yeah, and the word is a Greek word, and there is an Aramaic counterpart, mashal. Yeah, that's the vocabulary. But this.
The storytellers of antiquity.
All right, so it's a style of storytelling, for one thing, that comes out of antiquity. Any particular place of antiquity?
Well, Isaiah used similar stories.
Isaiah used parables.
Is there an element of representation?
Certainly is. For one thing, it's very Jewish. Who else besides Isaiah used parables? As a matter of fact, who was the... Sorry? Nathan. Ah, beautiful. I was hoping someone would say Nathan. What about Nathan? What parable did Nathan tell?
That was the rich man who took the neighbour's land, quick land. He was using it to make a point to the neighbour.
Well, that's pretty interesting. This is a way in which prophets speak to kings. Why?
Because many other things will get their head popped off.
Well, maybe, although if you remember, Nathan was very clear in his interpretation of the parable, wasn't he?
Oh, yes.
So he wasn't trying to avoid the issue.
He'd already got David on the side of the story.
Exactly. So it wasn't that he was trying to finesse what was at stake. It was that he was trying to reframe the issue in a way that the hearer is roped in by thinking it's not about them. And then once they're on the inside of the story, suddenly, boom, you are the man, says Nathan. And of course, suddenly the whole story snaps into some very, very dangerous focus for the hearer. Yes, this is the roots of parables discourse. It is what prophets say to powerful people, because powerful people have eyes but refuse to see. They have ears but refuse to hear. Why is that? Self-interest. Well, Jesus tells us very clearly in the next teaching after the parable of the sower. in Mark 4. Anyone with ears to hear, listen, says Mark in chapter 4, verse 9. Somebody read verses 10 through 12. Chapter 4, 10 to 12.
When he was alone, the 12 and the others around him asked him about the parables. He told them, "The secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to those on the outside, everything is said in parables so that they may be ever seeing, but never perceiving, and ever hearing, but never understanding, otherwise they might turn and be forgiven."
Why don't people see and hear? What's that? Or at least according to the rhetorical style of this passage, it says God makes them blind, makes them deaf. God hardens the heart of Pharaoh. But let us not take that too literally, because what Isaiah, who is being quoted here, really says is their eyes are blinded, their ears are stopped, because if they did see and hear, what would they have to do? So what does it really say? They don't see because they don't want to see. Because if they did see, they'd have to change the way they live. They would have to stop heading in that direction, turn around, and head in another direction. That's what the argument is. Yes?
I think when we preached and the comments we received afterwards seem to indicate that people screen out what you really want to say.
Yeah. How about that?
That's the same thing at work.
Sure. But of course, we all have the capacity. That's why one of the master metaphors in the Gospel of Mark is blindness and deafness. We all have eyes but fail to see. We all have hearts that are hard. Preeminently in Mark, the disciples. The disciples are given the secret is a little unfortunate translation here. The word is mysterion, or mystery. Not mystery in terms of a magical text, but mystery in terms of, have you ever seen a world in which wealth has completely been distributed equally? It's a bit of a mystery, isn't it? It's the no eye has seen, no ear has heard, but that doesn't mean that it's not possible, because with God all things are possible. But it seems a mystery to us. To you has been given the kingdom of God, and it seems like a mystery. That is, to those of you heading toward the mystery, you've been given and entrusted with the story that takes you to the mystery. To everybody else, they don't see it, they don't hear it, because they're headed in the wrong direction and they don't want to turn around. By definition, they can't see it and hear it because they're moving away from it, and they don't want to stop going in the direction they're going. Turn to Isaiah, that great parable spinner. Yeah, biblical literacy is a challenge, because we don't get a lot of the allusions in the New Testament. You know the call of Isaiah? Isaiah 6? That's where Jesus is quoting from in chapter 4 of Mark. It's the call of Isaiah. He has this temple vision, this court vision of God in the true court. And that's kind of interesting, really, because he's having a vision of God being in the temple. What does that suggest?
He feared him. God is not seen there.
I mean, there were temples, and there were gods who supposedly dwelled in the temples, but Isaiah has to have a vision of